There was a time when I allowed people to treat me in ways I should not have accepted. Not because I deserved it, not because I wanted it, but because I did not have enough self-respect to stop it. I confused tolerance with strength. I confused silence with maturity. I confused being easy to deal with being valuable. When you do not respect yourself, you slowly teach others how to treat you. Not always intentionally. Sometimes you just do not speak up. You ignore small comments. You laugh off disrespect. You stay quiet when something crosses your boundary. And over time, that silence becomes permission. At first, it feels minor. It feels like avoiding drama. It feels like keeping peace. But internally, something shifts. You start feeling smaller. You start feeling overlooked. You start feeling drained. And yet you still do not say anything because you fear conflict more than you value your own comfort. That is what low self-respect does. It makes you prioritize everyone else's ease over your own dignity. When someone interrupts you and you never correct it, they learn it is acceptable. When someone speaks to you harshly and you accept it without response, they learn that tone works. When someone repeatedly asks for more than you can give and you never set limits, they learn you will always stretch. Not because you are weak, but because you never defined your limits. Self-respect begins where excuses end. It begins when you stop explaining away behavior that makes you uncomfortable. It begins when you admit that something feels wrong instead of minimizing it. It begins when you stop saying, "It's fine," when it is not fine. That sentence can become a habit, and that habit can quietly erase your boundaries. Without self-respect, you may stay in environments where you are not valued. You may accept criticism disguised as jokes. You may tolerate dismissiveness. You may absorb disrespect and call it patience. But patience without boundaries turns into self-neglect. Respecting yourself does not mean being aggressive. It does not mean reacting emotionally to everything. It means calmly deciding what is acceptable and what is not. It means communicating clearly. It means following through when limits are crossed. If someone repeatedly ignores your boundaries and you do nothing, the dynamic will not improve on its own. Patterns do not change without response. Silence does not create respect. It often creates continuation. Self-respect is not about controlling others. It is about controlling your participation. When you start respecting yourself, you begin to notice discomfort faster. You stop ignoring the internal signal that something feels off. You trust that feeling instead of dismissing it. That trust is powerful because your discomfort is not weakness, it is information. Low self-respect often shows up as over-apologizing, as over-explaining, as constantly trying to earn approval, as feeling guilty for setting boundaries, as worrying that saying no will make you unlikable. But if someone only respects you when you are compliant, that is not real respect. Self-respect requires accepting that not everyone will like your boundaries. Some people prefer you when you are easy to exploit. When you begin to say no, some relationships will shift. That is not failure. That is clarity. Respecting yourself also means understanding your worth is not determined by how much you tolerate. You do not become more valuable by enduring disrespect. Endurance is not the same as dignity. Staying quiet is not the same as being strong. Sometimes self-respect will feel uncomfortable at first. If you are used to shrinking, expanding your boundaries will feel unfamiliar. If you are used to saying yes automatically, saying no will feel heavy. That discomfort does not mean you are wrong. It means you are changing a pattern. You do not have to respond to disrespect with anger. Calm firmness is enough. You do not have to argue endlessly. A clear boundary is enough. You do not have to justify your dignity. You simply have to honor it. When you respect yourself, you stop chasing people who consistently disregard you. You stop trying to convince someone to value you. You understand that respect cannot be forced. It must be mutual. Self-respect changes how you evaluate relationships. You begin asking not just, do they like me, but also, do they treat me with care? Not just, do they want me around, but do they act in ways that show consideration? Those questions shift everything. Because being liked is not the same as being respected. Without self-respect, you may accept less than you deserve because you fear being alone. But staying in situations where you are diminished costs more than solitude. It costs your confidence. It costs your clarity. It costs your sense of self. Respecting yourself does not mean isolating yourself. It means choosing connections that do not require you to shrink. It means allowing relationships to exist where boundaries are honored. When you begin practicing self-respect, you will notice something subtle. You feel more stable. You feel less resentful. You feel less confused about where you stand. You feel more certain about what you will and will not accept. That certainty reduces anxiety because a lot of stress comes from internal conflict. When you constantly override your own limits, you create tension inside yourself. But when your actions align with your values, the tension decreases. Self-respect is alignment. It is choosing not to abandon yourself for approval. It is choosing not to stay silent when something matters. It is choosing not to normalize behavior that undermines you. You are not responsible for fixing other people's behavior, but you are responsible for how you respond to it. If something crosses your boundary, you can address it. If it continues, you can step back. That is not cruelty, that is self-protection. And self-protection is not selfish. It is necessary. Without self-respect, you may feel invisible in your own life. You may feel overlooked. But when you begin honoring your boundaries, your presence becomes clearer to yourself and to others. You stop negotiating your worth. Self-respect does not guarantee that everyone will treat you perfectly, but it does ensure that you will not participate in your own mistreatment. It is a quiet decision, a steady one, a daily one, the decision to stop minimizing yourself, the decision to stop accepting disrespect as normal, the decision to stand behind your own value even when it is inconvenient. And once you begin making that decision consistently, something shifts internally. You feel less like someone who is hoping to be treated better. You feel more like someone who expects to be treated with dignity, not because you demand perfection, but because you respect yourself enough not to settle for less. And when you start respecting yourself, you begin to notice something else. The way you walk into rooms changes. Not because you are trying to look confident, not because you are performing anything, but because you are no longer internally apologizing for existing. You are no longer shrinking your presence to make others comfortable. You are simply there, fully, without asking for permission. Self-respect does not make you loud. It makes you steady. It makes you less easily shaken by criticism. It makes you less dependent on approval. When someone disagrees with you, you do not collapse. When someone misunderstands you, you do not question your entire identity. You can tolerate discomfort without betraying yourself. That stability changes how you handle pressure. When you respect yourself, you are less likely to agree under force. You pause longer before committing. You evaluate whether something aligns with your values. You stop reacting out of fear of rejection. You start responding from clarity. Self-respect also changes how you speak to yourself. If you constantly criticize your mistakes, you weaken your confidence. If you treat yourself with patience, you build resilience. Respecting yourself means separating your actions from your worth. It means correcting behavior without attacking identity. Over time, these choices accumulate. They shape your environment. They shape your relationships. They shape your internal world. And slowly, you begin to feel more at home in your own life. Self-respect is not about becoming someone new. It is about finally treating yourself the way you have always deserved to be treated.